Welcome to the PropTech podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. So the aim of each episode is to introduce you, our listeners, to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible and explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. And my guest in this episode is Darren Younger from Bricklett. Now, Bricklett is a PropTech startup in what they call the Fragmented Ownership space. Using Bricklett, you're able to invest in fragments of property, but you still have your name on the title. So it's a property investment play targeted at millennials and that generation of Australians who are now struggling with housing affordability. And according to the latest CoreLogic data from late last year, it currently takes 8.6 years for a typical household to save for a 20% deposit on a home. And it requires 34.4% of a typical income to pay for a mortgage here in Australia. But what's interesting about Bricklett is the role that real estate agents can play in this new fragmented transaction. So here to tell us all about it, Darren Younger, welcome to the PropTech podcast.
Great to be here.
Yeah, again, take three, right? So look, this should be a really slick episode because Darren and I have actually had a bit of a test run and I managed to screw up all the audio. But thanks so much for your patience, Darren. Do you want to give us your elevator spiel for Bricklett?
Yeah, for sure. No worries. So Bricklett is a platform that creates independent part ownership for property owners and means that when we fragment properties into multiple pieces, all the Bricklett owners, they actually are all on title together. And so it's just a way for people to own property in smaller pieces. Keeps it really, really simple.
Cool. So it's a housing affordability or a way to... It's a property affordability platform, I guess, in that regard, is it?
Yeah, I guess that's definitely one of the one of the main reasons that we set up to do what we're doing with Bricklett is the housing affordability is definitely one big area that enables people to get into the property market sooner. The other big area that that can be across many different segments is also diversification, because you've got smaller pieces of property. So it means even if you've got $300,000 or $400,000 to spend on property, then you can have a diverse portfolio. So it works really, really well also with, like, for example, SMSFs.
Fantastic. So tell me the story as to how it came about that you got into this space.
Yeah, so we were looking at, in the Kiva Group, which is the parent company, we're always looking at different innovations and different innovations around solving problems in the market. And one of the things, obviously, that's been, always in the media is the growing house prices and housing affordability challenges. And there's a lot of people that feel that, and so even in the office that we work in. And so, it was just kind of an idea that, seeing a lot of different fractional ownership models that have been around for a while that don't really fit the bill. And can you actually own a piece of the actual property on title, as opposed to having a share in a unit trust or something like that.
Right. So talk to me in a little bit more detail about what the difference is between a fractional ownership versus a fragmented ownership. Is it that name on title or?
Yeah, absolutely. So fractional ownership, it's been around for a long time. Basically you've got a company or a unit trust structure or something that owns the property, and then all the fractional owners then own shares or units in that vehicle. So that's really how that works. And so you don't have a direct ownership of the property and you're not on title, whereas fragmented property through Bricklett is, where you end up on title. So we use the tenants in common. So if you've got 20 Bricklett owners, they're all listed on the title.
Right. So how does it work if you've got multiple people's names on title? Do you have arguments over what colour the living room's going to be, or how to
potentially it could happen, right? It's still owned by multiple people, but what we do with Bricklett is we automate and simplify the process of that communication, and also enable people to do that in a more efficient way. You might choose to not really have a say in it if you don't want to. Leave it up to the property manager or the asset manager to manage all that on your behalf, which most people opt in to do. So on a rare occasion, obviously there will be people that want to have, an actual say around things. But the idea of this is to try and create something that is, as flexible as possible to enable people, if they choose to have a passive investment around property.
As a real estate agent, you need to be doing more content marketing. But creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial, or click the link in our show notes. So if I'm interested in buying a Bricklett, how do I do that?
It's really, really simple. You go onto the platform, bricklett.com.au, you sign up, you do your ID checks, and then you find a Bricklett that you want to buy, and then then you buy it. So we eliminate a lot of the challenges around buying property as well, make it much more efficient for that. There's a number of communities around that are starting to be built around Bricklett as well. So there's one that we work closely with at the moment called Future Realty. And Future Realty Tribe is a tribe of people that are, working together to start building property portfolios using fragmented property. So, we're starting to see an interesting shift in the market.
Cool. Is it a little bit like, with the fancy boats that you buy a share of the boat?
Well, I guess it's kind of. I mean, I'm not sure how those structures work, but, if I guess the way to think about it is that, if you and me and 20 other people wanted to have a share in a property, by putting it through the Bricklett platform, we all own that piece of the property. So not sure you can do that on the boat, but
no, I'm not either. So if I'm looking for a Bricklett, I go onto your website and you've got a series of, or you've got a selection of properties on that site when I was there recently that I can buy into. And most of them are new, aren't they? They're they're properties that have recently been built.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just on the platform as well. So, we've got a number of sales agents that are, looking at, some of the properties that they've got and choosing the Bricklett model to sell the properties. And some of them don't even list it on the Bricklett platform. They just, they sell to their clients. And then once they've, got everyone, basically all the Bricklett owners subscribe, they then come to the platform and use it to fragment the property. So that's ultimately what we do.
Oh, okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get into this?
Yeah, so my background is primarily tech. I mean, I've had a number of investment properties and some war stories around some property developments that we were lucky to get out. I think we broke even, so we were pretty lucky. So, know a little bit about property, but definitely know way more about tech and innovation. So I guess it's just that kind of, most people in Australia kind of have at some stage in their life thought about owning property. And so, enabling those people that are finding it more challenging, I think is a great thing.
Yeah, fantastic. So how, let's talk a little bit about housing affordability. Because when I was at CoreLogic, I actually wrote the housing affordability report, and I know that it's more expensive than, I think it has come down a little bit recently, but it is more expensive for this generation of people, of homeowners, than any generation before. And we're even seeing basically inheritance as a property purchasing strategy.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Just as
you have to wait for the baby boomers in your life to die so that you can afford to put a deposit down on a property. It's about 8 years, I think, from memory, to save up for a deposit.
Yeah, I think it's, I guess, I've got a couple of teenage kids, that are, will be soon sort of looking at that kind of space. And I think, for the salaries that they'll be earning versus the property prices, especially if it's anywhere near Sydney. I mean, I live on the northern beaches of Sydney. So, saving up to buy a deposit on something there will be, quite challenging for someone who's, fresh out of university.
Yeah. And also with a HEC stick under their belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I can either go onto the website, find a property that I'm looking for. Now, when we spoke last time, I remember you were telling me that there's quite a few developers that are working with you in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got, I guess the two biggest developers that we work with are Mirvac and Stockland. They are both investors in the platform. They see a lot of value of it. It's creating a new channel to market where, it's I guess the really simple way to think about it from a developer's point of view is, you'll have a stock that you can sell for, let's say it's an apartment of $500,000. Instead of selling them all for that price, you can sell some, brickletize it and sell them for $25,000 each. There's a very different market, and there's a big opportunity for that type of, let's call it investment pieces or bricklets. And so there's, for the developers, that's a key piece around completed property. And then we also have a model that enables them to sell the bricklets at an earlier stage in the life cycle. So effectively, you get your DA approved. The traditional model is that you do some pre-sales and you go to the you go to a finance company and get a loan to do the finance, and then you've got to still have the risk of selling them later on. Well, in the bricklet model, we've got a way that the bricklet buyers can buy in earlier, and then they ride that upside. So all the money is available the whole way through the project, and there's no finance required for the project.
Right. Okay. So are you seeing therefore that developers are putting up the stock that they just can't shift, or is it a range of stock, or?
No, it's definitely a range of stock. I mean, it's no different to selling them in full. But if it does enable people to buy it because it's split up, well, then that's helpful to the developers if it is residual stock. But at the same point, people will still look at the price point. It's up to the market to decide whether it's good value or not, whether they enter the market or whether it sells or doesn't sell.
Yeah. And so how does the price get decided?
It gets decided by the vendor at the start, but obviously justified. So we also have a valuation that we'll put, third-party valuation that we put with it. And then people can make their own decisions. That's just the way the property is. There's a valuation, there's a price, and you make up your own mind whether you think it's too overpriced, too underpriced. It's your call.
Yeah. And so I'm getting a proportion of the rent direct minus all the expenses for the property, I'm assuming?
Yeah, that's right. So the property managers, that run the property, or the asset manager, we like to call them. So they'll basically pay all the, month-to-month expenses, and then as the rent comes in, they get paid back. So it doesn't need a slush fund, doesn't need, the trust accounting anymore. So it keeps it really, really seamless around how the process works. But as a general rule, it just means that the bricklet owners don't need to contribute more funds throughout the life cycle of the bricklet.
Right. And so does that also include sort of strata fees or things like that if it's a...
Yeah, absolutely. So it can include any fees. And, so if there are, for example, 1 month where there's a lot of fees, and let's say the fees even exceed the amount of rent coming in, just means that the bricklet owners wouldn't receive rent that month, and then next month they're getting a little bit, and eventually they'll get more and more. But it's just a way to mitigate that risk around people having to put more money into it.
So if I'm a vendor, if I'm thinking about selling my property, why would I choose to do it as a bricklet rather than putting it on the normal residential market?
Yeah, good question. I think there's two things. One is, if you can see the appetite for, for those smaller pieces, or it might be that you might have in your audience, or you might be working with a sales agent that has in their clients, a group of people that are looking to buy. So you could also leverage the Bricklett platform. You might just have a family that just has 5 people that want to buy property together. And in the traditional sense, it's quite hard and complicated, and they may not do that. But with the Bricklet model, they might be happy to do that. So sometimes it's circumstances as well, not just the fact that it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah,
it's
so
really the independent part ownership is the real driving factor of what we're creating.
Right, and so so this could potentially be a solution for something like, mum's getting old, or the kids need to buy into the property, and could it work like that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, that's a big market that has yet to be tapped around, so exactly that model, right? So, parents have got a property, and we talked earlier about, the way that people are using inheritance. Well, Bricklett could be a way to pre-inheritance as well. Offer them, some bricklets in the property.
That's right. That's right. Hey, kids, you can put your money into mum's house, and then I'll let you inherit it later on. Yeah. You can fund my retirement. It's a whole new take on it. So it is also being used as for existing property as well, not just off the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any property that has a title, effectively.
Yep.
Because it is just a platform for creating that independent part ownership. So if you've got a property and there's a scenario or a reason why you want to do that, then if it has a title, we can do that, execute on it. So it could be commercial property, could be industrial property, it could be a farm, it could be, there's all sorts of, as long as it's got a title, it can be fragmented.
Fantastic. So if I'm a real estate agent, how does Bricklett work for me?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for sales agents because it opens up a new opportunity around being able to offer two different types of services. One is that they can just offer bricklets for sale to their clients that they didn't get access to before. But the real value is, they've got a property that they want to list, whether it's a brand new development or an existing property. They now have the option to say to the vendor, would you like to sell it as bricklets? Or they might have a group of clients that they know. There's this group of 10 clients that together, putting 50 grand together, each are happy to buy a $500,000 investment property. So it creates a lot of flexibility for the sales agent. They're not missing out on the commissions. That's part of their negotiation with the vendor. There's just an extra fee for the fragmentation.
Right, fantastic. And now let's hear a word from our sponsors. For almost 16 years, Direct Connect has made moving easy for over 1.2 million renters and homeowners by arranging connections to a wide range of services, from electricity and gas to internet and pay TV. With a national team of local account managers who are experts in the industry, Direct Connect are there to support your real estate business with competitive rewards for every successful connection, plus an industry-leading rewards program. The connection process is simple, and Direct Connect's always-on guarantee ensures your customers will be connected on the day they move in. Direct Connect offers a range of market-leading suppliers, and Direct Connect has now made it even easier than ever to send connections directly integrating with MRI Software's Property Tree. So in just a few clicks while processing a tenancy, you can send the connection details through and get your customers connected. To make the right connection and find out how Direct Connect can make moving easy for you and easy for your customers, visit agents.directconnect.com.au or call 1300 558 169. There's a few other people sort of playing in this space. I mean, the REITs have been around for a while. There was BrickX. There's a couple of other competitors. Darren, what do you see are the key benefits in the space, and how do you see the space developing? I
think it's kind of interesting to see how it develops. I mean, what you would kind of, I guess, maybe class as competitors. I mean, they're all doing it very differently in that they're effectively creating an investment product for people to buy into, where Bricklett is purely just a platform for fragmenting property. So it's quite different in the way that we position it in the market and what the service is that we offer. So, as far as competitors go, I don't think we have a competitor for the service that we provide. But at the end of the day, if it's someone who's going to buy a piece of property, they could buy into a REIT, or they could buy, some BrickX or whatever, but they're still, I guess it comes down to the individuals around, if it is them looking for that particular type of property, are they looking for an indirect property or a direct ownership?
Yeah, cool. And so what do you see happening in this space? Like, what's the future of fragmented ownership?
Well, I think there's a lot of scale, that'll be coming out of this. So there'll be, we'll start to see a lot of people transact using this type of model. And I think that once people understand the benefits of it, not just from a point of view of a price point, but also the efficiency. So that independent part ownership, if I can just say to you, hey, do you want to buy this piece of property? And you say, yeah, no worries, and then it's just transacted and done. It makes property a lot more interesting as an asset class or something to own. And it's property, so it's quite, robust.
But it's also, I guess, it's making it a lot more liquid. Like it's you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it just makes the whole buying and selling process much more seamless. So it's no different to I want to sell my TV. I put it up on some kind of listing and someone buys it. Like it's the ultimate goal is to get property to that point, so that if I want to sell my Bricklett, I'm putting it up, someone buys it, and we transact, and it's done. So it's really, really that simple.
Right. And so you don't. So what's your time on market for a Bricklett?
So we launched late last year. We did. So we sold over close to $10 million worth of Brickletts. We got into the interesting COVID period, which was a bit of a slowdown, and now we're kind of coming out of that. And it's very interesting. The market is very much moving forward, and there's a lot of appetite at the moment around for Brickletts.
Yeah. How many properties have you got on the platform at the moment, or available to be bought into?
Yes, at the moment there's about. On the platform itself, I think there's about 15. There's another. I think in total, dollar value of Brickletts is around $30 million at the moment that are being sold across various agents and project developments.
Cool. And so you're aware of anyone overseas or anything that's anywhere else that's doing this sort of stuff?
No, I haven't seen any like a fragmented property model where the name is on title. So I think the advantage in Australia is that we have Torrens title, and the other advantage is that we have e-conveyancing. So the guys at PEXA have done a great job, laying the groundwork, so to speak. So how we can interact with the land titles in an efficient way, and that will just get better and better over time.
Fantastic. So what do you see is the future of proptech for the next 5 years or so? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I see. Really, if you look at proptech as a whole, I think it's more the gaining of efficiency. Property will be traded faster. It'll be searched easier. There'll be a lot more data that's more accessible. So it's really just making it easier and easier for people. I think as a general rule. That's really what proptech's doing, like property management platforms, that make it really easy, payment systems that make it really easy. It's more taking that pain away from, what, back in the day was, to buy an investment property and look after it and manage it and then try and sell it and all these things were, always hard and slow, whereas, with more efficiency and more proptech solutions, it starts to become a lot more interesting as an asset class and much more tradable. Fantastic.
So look, Darren, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you again on the PropTech podcast. And for our listeners at home, I had a bit of a brain melt and we screwed up the original recording. But so thank you so much for coming onto the show and for your time a second time.
No worries, pleasure, and thanks for the practice run.
That's all right. It always helps to have a dress rehearsal, right? So that was Darren Younger, CEO of Bricklett, a new way to buy property through fragmented ownership. And there's a lot happening in this space of fractional property ownership, and it's worth watching. Sadly, the data does show that property ownership is largely the privilege of baby boomers and Gen X. With HECS debts and record property prices, the only way many millennials can afford property ownership is through inheriting it through the death of their parents. And isn't that a cheerful thought? But with the investment of some of the country's major developers into Bricklett and the importance of buyers doing their own research on where they want to buy, I think there's a lot worth checking out. Now, there's a few others playing in this space, and we're going to take a look at them over coming months. But I've included the link to Bricklett in the show notes and also a link to the latest CoreLogic Housing Affordability Report, so check them all out. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech podcast, I would love you to tell your friends or drop me a line either via email, say hi on LinkedIn, or on my Facebook page. You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Apple iTunes, or on my website, kyliecdavis.com.au. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie Hollins and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors, Smidge Wines, official wine of the proptech community, Home Prezzo, turning property data into amazing marketing content, and of course, Direct Connect, making moving easy. So thanks everybody. Till next week, stay safe and keep on propteching.